If you guys are still playing FC24 and you want some cheap coins, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you do use my code Rema, it will give you a lovely 5% discount off your order. So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, we're going to be looking at the 422 and showing some tactics and instructions, ones I've been using for the past few days in Rivals, and I've also completed the entire of that Footy Silver Cup with this as well. Now just to avoid confusion, a lot of people always say that the formation I'm showing here is not the one in the video, and you're absolutely right, it's not. This is all just for chemistry. When it comes to the formation you're using, you just put it in the game plan in your custom tactics. So I know this is a 4-2-4, but this, I can assure you, is for the 4-2-2. So yeah, with all that aside guys, let's get right into the video. I hope you enjoy. Okay then guys, so starting off with the tactics for this 4-2-2. For the defensive style, we have it on balanced as always. Why balanced? Well, it gives you the best control when you are defending, in my opinion, of course. So when you want to press your opponent and be like aggressive, you can do that. And then when you want to like drop off and maybe be more passive and conservative in your approach, you can also do that. So it basically just gives you more control over your defenders, unlike these pressure tactics. However, if you prefer these pressure tactics because you feel more comfortable with them, then you can use them just the same. Now moving on to the width, I've actually lowered this even more than in recent videos. So I actually usually have this on 35, but for the sake of the 4-2-2, I actually just lowered it to 25. Now the reason for this is it makes your defense really narrow, so it's very difficult for your opponent to get through the middle. It's made even like better if you have players with like the block play styles or the intercept play styles, because then they have like even greater range on the blocks for the shots and the interceptions for the passes. So you completely congest this middle area and it makes it very difficult for your opponent to get through. With 25 width as opposed to like 35, there is a bit more space out wide for your opponent, but you're that boxed in, you're that compact that even if you do give them that space out wide, it can actually be pretty difficult for them to do anything because there's no space or there's no angles to pass, if that makes sense. So 25 width has been very overpowered. Now moving on to the depth, a lot of people might want to use that 100 depth or that 71 depth stuff that you see going around. This is absolutely fine. For those that don't understand why people use 100 depth, well, it gives you a very high defensive line, but most importantly, the AI will like press for you. So pretty much every player on the opposition team is marked, and then the middle of the pitch is really congested, so it's all automatic and it helps out those that struggle defensively. Me personally, I don't like using it because I like to have more control over my defense, so I like switch between a depth of 60 and 65, so we still have a decently high defensive line, we just have more control over when we press our opponent. Now for the build-up play, balanced is the way to go in my opinion, as it does give you the most like fluid build-up and the most consistent build-up. When you use balance guys, you can basically pick and choose between all the types of build-up. So for example, if you wanted to start off building up slowly, you can do that, and then if you want to speed up and play a bit quicker, you can also do that. So balance gives you like the best of both worlds, you can mix and match, and on top of this, I think these individual settings for the build-up are really bad. I think the AI is horrible, I don't think it helps you play a certain way, I just think ultimately they're pretty useless. So yeah, balanced in my opinion. Now for the chance creation, direct passing is an absolute must in this game because it's the only way to consistently break through those park the bus defenses in the game. So FC24 is very like drop back, park the bus heavy in terms of the defensive structure in the final third. So direct passing allows you to break through that because it's a very push forward track back motion from your attacker. So they'll make these runs forward, opposition defenders follow the attackers that make the run, and then the attack will then track back once the defender's overcommitted to create that space between them. From there, you can obviously just pass across or cut back. So it is a very boring tactic, but it is very effective and important in the state of this game. Now for the attacking width, I use a more narrow width in 40. I like it because I find it easier to link up between my players because they're a bit closer together. Not too close, I may add. But yeah, 40 width has been nice for me, but you can pretty much use a width you want. If you want to make it wider, you can do that. All you need to know is the lower the width, the more narrow your attack, and the higher the width, the wider your attack. So I would go for a range between like 40 and 60, but again, each their own, you do what is best for you. Now for the players in the box, I have this on 6 at the moment. This is quite balanced. You get a few players into that penalty area, but you don't completely overcommit to the point where if you lose that on possession, you're not always going to get counter-attack, so that's why I use that. And for the corners and the free kicks, I have them both on 2, but you guys can do what you want with that as well. Oh my god, that voice crack was awful. Now, moving on to the player instructions for this 4-2-2. For the strikers, it's pretty standard, to be honest. We use them, in pretty much every system you use because they're the best instructions, and that is stay central and get in behind. Why these instructions, you might ask? Well, stay central, obviously, it keeps them in those middle areas, which is very important when you've got strikers in a formation, because if you have them on balance width, in my opinion, they can get lost. They can drift out wide and in places where you don't really need them, so they don't offer you too much. So stay central keeps them in that central position, so that you actually have players to aim for up the pitch. And then getting behind is very important in this game, more than other games that we've had, because it forces runs out of the players. So if you're using mixed attack on your striker, and then your opponent is using a pressure tactic, for some reason it breaks the player. They just don't move, they're extremely static, and they don't help you out. So getting behind is important to force those runs no matter what, and beat those pressure players, especially the ones using that 100 depth. For these wide cams, guys, we have them on comeback, on defense, and get into the box for cross. We have them on comeback, on defense in this formation because it makes it even more defensively sound. So the 4-2-2 in its default shape is okay defensively, but it can be made better. So the reason we pop them on comeback, on defense is because they will come back to sit next to those two DMs as a right mid and a left mid to fill in those spaces on the wing, so your opponent does not have any space to exploit. You have those two banks of 4 and then those two up front, so it's a 4-4-2 in defense, and it just makes it much better in that sense. And then we also have them on get into the box for cross, guys, so they do not hesitate in getting into that penalty area and helping us out. I think this is a very important instruction. They can be a bit static, a bit lazy without this one. Now, for this left DM, basically, I always suggest a balance when you have two DMs or two centre mids, because I think it's important. So I suggest having one defensive type player that's just that their whole role is just to sit back, break up the play, and help you defensively. And then you have a more box-to-box style player next to them, somebody that can defend but can also attack, so they help you transition. I think that balance is important to do well in this game. So on this more defensive one, cut passing lanes, stay back, and cover centre. Pretty self-explanatory, but we don't want them flying forward. Cut passing lanes means they always look to intercept those passes and break up the play, and then cover centre so that they'll cover that middle area, as we don't need them to cover the wing since we have those wide cams coming back to do that job. Now for this right DM, guys, this is the more box to box, like I said, so this is somebody that will attack and defend, so we kind of just leave them on the default settings so that they're not restricted and they can pretty much do what they want. They can cook, The only thing we change again is cover centre, so that they'll cover that middle area as opposed to the wing, because like I said, we don't need them to cover that wider area. We've got the wide cams coming back to do that. Now for the fullbacks, on my more attacking one, at the moment I have him on join the attack and overlap. Now the reason I do join the attack overlap is because the way I've got my 4-2-2 set up, it's quite narrow in the attack, so I find it very important to have that wider option so that I'm not, constantly out of ideas. So I have this player on join the attack overlap, so they're going to be consistently running out wide to stretch the opposition's defense, give us that wider option and help us out. If this is too much for you, you can just put them on balanced attack so they won't always go flying forward, but again, it's up to you. For the other fullback, the more defensive one, I have them on stay back and overlap, so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when we send them on that run forward, they'll make that overlapping run to give us that width as well. For those 2 centre backs, guys, we leave them alone, and then the goalkeeper, again, we also leave them alone. But yeah, they're my tactics and instructions for the 4-2-2. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please be sure to drop it a like, sub to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos, and don't forget to turn on those notifications. And with all that aside, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, guys, and take care.